Did you just start your brand new job but still want to buy a house? You're going to want to tune into this.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Justin Little, and I am a local real estate agent here in Hamilton, Ontario that loves making educational videos about the real estate market. Today, I am joined once again by a special guest, Mr. Davis Carroll. Davis, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
It is always great having you in here. Today's topic is one that I think a lot of people don't think about. They think about it, they ask about it, but they don't know about it. And they maybe just assume, well, I got a new job, I have to work for a minimum amount of time before I can buy a house. So let's answer that question first. If I got a job, just start a new job, what am I looking at here?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we get calls all the time, right? Where people say, I need to wait. I need to wait my 3 months. I need to wait my 6 months, which is a pretty normal probationary period for a new job. But, we're here to say today that you don't necessarily need to wait that amount of time. So if somebody's made a move in their job and they went from a salaried position in one field and moved to the same field, but at a higher paying job, I mean, that's a vertical move that makes sense, right? And we're basically, when we package up the deals and communicate with the banks, we're letting them know that as well. Although they are on probation, full disclosure, they are on probation, but they took this new position because there's more money, first of all, more room for growth, maybe it's better work from home flexibility, and the situation makes sense. The banks are going to want to move forward with a deal like that, right?
Okay. And then talking about the probationary period, because a lot of jobs do come with a probation of 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is out there.
Yeah.
Does that probationary period affect an approval in any way?
So, and again, where we're being transparent with, the bank or the mortgage insurer, if you're putting 5 or 10% down, if we're communicating that to them that, hey, they started this position recently, they are on probation, but they had, 5 years of experience with their previous employer in the same field, and they made, this employment change for a higher salary, for example. Again, when we're being transparent with the banks about that, that's something that they're pretty comfortable with.
Okay, and then talking about the same field, I know you've mentioned that a couple of times now. What happens if I'm, I'm selling shoes and now I want to start fixing cars, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to a completely different field.
Yeah.
How does that affect things?
Yeah, and if you are on probation, or say, for example, it's a contract position where you change fields and you don't have history in that field, that may be an issue. But, we're seeing these days a lot of people negotiating in their new employment, no probationary periods, right? And I think the important part is to have a conversation with your mortgage broker, make sure you're keeping them in the loop. And that way we can advise. Maybe when you're negotiating your new role, you say, hey, it's critical that I don't have this probationary period, right? I'm going to buy a house. I want to ensure that the financing isn't an issue. And one way to do that, of course, is to
eliminate
the probationary period.
You know what? That's a great point, because actually Cass, my wife Davis, does all our mortgages. The job that she just jumped to, she said no probationary period because we bought a house, right?
Exactly.
So she was, that completely makes sense then, that you can use it as a negotiation, not negotiation, but just when you're starting a job, something to consider.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, if the company's hiring you, they understand what you used to do at your previous position, they want you working for their company, I think that's a reasonable thing to be able to remove from the offer is that you're not on probation right off the bat, right?
And then I know sometimes when you're getting into scenarios, things are a bit different than just normal straightforward financing. If somebody just started a job, is there still a possibility they're going to qualify with an A lender, or are you looking at B options?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So if you're salaried or guaranteed, 40 hours a week at your hourly rate, as long as we have an employment letter that outlines, what your annual income is or will be, with a pay stub that supports those hours or that salary, as long as you have one pay stub, the bank is comfortable with it. So you don't necessarily need to wait your 90 days, your 6 months of probation, or just, starting your new position. So again, important to be fully upfront with your mortgage broker, make sure we're positioning that to the bank as effectively as we can, and ultimately it may not be a problem at all.
Perfect. And then I'm just hearing the question in the back of my head. What's an A lender? What's a B lender? Just lay it out so people understand, because that's sometimes industry jargon.
Yeah, so as brokers, we work with lots of different lenders, big banks, credit unions, and then we have a lot of different lenders that are, essentially exclusive to mortgage brokers. So that essentially just gives us options, right? So if you do have an issue with your credit, or maybe you purchased a house, you have a long closing date, and you miss some payments on your vehicle, credit score comes down, and the bank says no, well, now we don't need to panic. We have backup options with B lenders that will look at those situations with maybe a lesser credit score or something like that, So, to avert that disaster.
So who's an A, who's a B? Like what's just as an example, to give people an example of what an A lender is.
Yeah, so your Scotiabank, your TD Bank, your First Ontario Credit Union, very reputable name banks that, a lot of people bank with daily. Those are banks that we can facilitate mortgages through. And then we've got a whole laundry list of B lenders that we work with.
That's
RFA. RFA, Home Trust.
Home Trust, yeah.
And what's cool too is some of these B lenders will have, or some of the A lenders will have B divisions. So you can do what's called their graduate program, where if you were on a B mortgage for 1 or 2 years and your income has increased or your credit score has increased, they can bump you up internally from their B side to their A side. So those are all things that we're coaching clients through, making sure that we've got them the right path outlined for them to bring them up to the bank, and
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
See, great options out there. Davis's information is going to be in the description below as well if you want to reach out to him, and if you have any questions about the buying side as well, you can reach out to me. But thank you so much for tuning in again this week, Davis. Absolute pleasure to have you here.
Always a pleasure.
All right, thanks everybody. Take care.